Hi. In 2024, Daz and I intend to travel to WA, and we are really keen to do the Ningaloo Coast and to spend a fair amount of time there before we head north to Broome and explore that. We travelled the Western Australia coastline as far as Exmouth 10 years ago in our combi, and that was at a time when there was no booking system. It was very much first in, first served, and that had its own issues. But it seems to us, from what we have seen on YouTube from other travellers, that the current booking system is quite difficult to navigate, and availability of sites is really tight. And so this has been something that has been really daunting for me to try and tackle, to think that if we want to be on the Ningaloo Coast in the peak period, which is July, August, the best weather, the best time to visit the coast, then we need to start making bookings. And the booking system only opens up 180 days in advance. So if we're in January now and we want to be there in July, I need to start booking now or I will miss out on sites. And the daunting part about that is, to me, it just feels like a massive game of Tetris. As in, we're not just going to go to one place, and you can only have a maximum stay of 14 nights at any of the campsites. So if we're going to be moving through the campsites, how do we figure out where we want to be at what time? How long are we going to stay at each campsite? And then the next question becomes availability. And what do we do if we can't get the whole availability for those dates? And what about if there are gaps? What about if we can get some availability somewhere and some somewhere else? And what sequence do we do them in? And where are we going to sleep if we don't get a camp spot for the night? And so I was finding it really stressful. It was actually keeping me up at night trying to figure out, what are we going to do about WA? And so I decided that, given that we were in January and 180 days is July, I need to be booking things now. Or should we just wing it? Should we just go and not have bookings? That's what we did last time. So I reached out to some other travellers that we follow on YouTube and Instagram, and I asked them for advice. Some of the travellers that we know have already done the Ningaloo Coast, and asked their advice. And what came back was a firm don't go without bookings. Those who went without bookings this time round, or when they went, regretted that and said that they will definitely have bookings the next time they go. So that's a given. We're going to have bookings. The other thing that was really clear from all of the traveling families and was very consistent was that the parks website is just really hard to navigate, and you've just got to get in there and just keep trying. And there's no secret, there's no tips. We had one family that told us that they'd got up at 3 a.m. Vic time, which is midnight WA time, just to try and get on there and find bookings for their dates. And even doing that, they weren't able to find what they wanted. So I decided that I needed to just throw myself into it, make it a bit of a project, and get going. The best way to achieve something is to actually make a start. And so it was a rainy day. I stayed in bed. I had all of my devices, and I just started the process. And I'm stoked to say that I have actually got 2 months worth of bookings on the Ningaloo Coast without a gap. I have got 2 whole months of from when we arrive in Carnarvon to when we leave Exmouth, and I'm stoked. We will wing the rest of it. We will be out of season for a lot of that when we're coming back down the coast, and we will also pick up some of the places that we missed when we come back down the coast. So I've put this video together to show you what I did, how I approached it, how I decided where we were going to stay, what I thought about in terms of how long are we going to book for at each place. And I thought that it could be really useful to some people. It would have been really useful to me to have something like that. So here goes. I hope you find it useful. Drop me a comment below and let me know. We've been using Campedia for a while to record places that we think we might like to visit. It's a really good app that's contemporary and up to date. There are some really good reviews in there and a lot of detail about the campsites that you won't find in other apps. So one of the apps that we use is this one, Campedia, and you can see that here. We also have been using Wikicamps for a long time, and every time we find a place that we think we might like to visit, we save it as a favourite in Wikicamps. And this means we can go back and then join together or create a trip of the places that we think we might like. And one of the things that I like about that is that I can go in there and have a look at distances and the actual sequence of where we would potentially go on our trip. And so in preparing to plan this trip, I needed to go back and review all of that and have a look at the places that we potentially might go to. So you can see here, the level of information that you can get and the reviews that are available that can help you to put your trip together. So I've got this sequence now, and then I can go back and have a look in my trip planner that I've created of all of these places, and I can start to have a look at how far they are between locations, and also the sequencing. Am I doubling back on myself or not? I also reviewed the videos that we've saved from YouTube to remind me of the places we said we'd like to visit someday. And so I was able to start putting together a rough plan or outline of where we wanted to go and how long we'd spend in each of these places. But once I had my rough outline worked out, I then went back through all of my data again through Campedia and had a look in a lot more detail at each of the places that were on my rough outline. I went back through Wikicamps as well and read the reviews, and I started to make some more detailed notes about each of the places and the sites, like not just what location, but what were they saying about the sites? Would we be able to get in there or not? Where was the nearest water? Did they have showers? And I went back through and watched a few of the videos on YouTube as well, just to get a really good idea, again in my mind, of the layout, I suppose, of the campsites and what we might find there. As I went, I made more detailed notes and my plan started to get really, really comprehensive. I knew what sites to look for, what sites to avoid, and I knew what facilities were there. So I also needed to consider how long we were going to stay off-grid before we went back into a town to top up our water and food supplies. So once I did all of this, I was then ready to log in and look for a site. So I jumped onto the park's website and I typed in Windabandi because that was my first choice of where we wanted to stay. That was what I would call my keystone booking. If I could get that first booking, then I would work around that. So I entered in my dates that I was after and had a look at Windabandi. At first, this was really hard for me to figure out what I was doing, but once I got the hang of it, it was pretty good. So I could see that, yes, there were a couple of campsites available for the dates that I was looking for. And I changed the dates. I extended it. So instead of 7 nights, I put in 14, and those sites were still available. So I clicked on the park map and had a look and discovered that those sites that were available were not really ideal. So I went back and again played with my dates and couldn't find anything. So then I changed my booking or my search to South Lefroy, and I could not believe that I found 2 weeks at South Lefroy in a campground that would fit us. So they tell you whether they take large caravans or not. A campground that's going to fit us. I got it. once I had that Keystone booking, I could then start looking at the surrounding dates and the other places that we said that we wanted to go. So referring back to my list, I would just keep searching until I could find campsites that were going to suit us. And so I was able to go right through, including looking at station stays. This took a bit of time because I had to go backwards and forwards. The other thing to look at are the homesteads themselves. They're not booked through parks. So I was able to fill in some gaps by staying at Ningaloo Station and also Warra Station by booking direct with them. So once I had all of my bookings, I can see them here. I've paid for them. And I can actually go in there and now I can change those bookings if I need to. So you can see there, if I wanted to change the site number I was on, I can simply go in there and it will show me what other sites are now available for those dates. I can cancel and get a full refund. I can book something else if something else comes up. Once I had all my parks bookings and my station stays, I then had a look at the caravan parks that I was going to need to stay at either side, so Carnarvon and Exmouth, and I've booked those as well. So all in all, that gives us 2 months of bookings with no gaps in between. There are probably 2 one-night stays in there. Actually, no, there's only one night stay. And we do have a week at Warra Station, which is 1.5 kilometres away from the beach. So over the next 6 months before we arrive, I'm going to be regularly checking to see whether there's been any cancellations for those dates, and I can change my bookings. So at the end of the day, it ended up not being that overwhelming. So the key was to just get that first booking. The other thing was to think about how long we were going to be off grid for. We know we can easily do 3 weeks. So we have got 3 weeks of water without any problem. And when we're on the stations, we'll have access to bore water showers and clothes washing, dishwashing facilities as well. So that helps us to extend our stay. So not overwhelming at all. I feel so relieved now that I have done everything. My tip would be just get in and start having a look. If your arrival date, your first date, is more than 180 days away from today, set yourself a calendar reminder to start checking in 180 days. It is 180 days from your date of arrival, not for the whole duration of your stay. So that's actually handy, because if you're arriving in 180 days and you're staying for 2 weeks, you don't have to wait till day 194 to book. So set yourself a reminder. I think be prepared to take the bookings that might not be perfect but are good enough, knowing that if there's a cancellation in the meantime, you can change it, and you can change it pretty easily. I did all of that in a day, and like I said, I feel really good. I'm going to go back now to Campedia and create my trip with my dates. Now that I know my dates, I'll create my trip in Campedia. And then in Campedia, I can also start to add in things like points of interest, where water points are, where the rubbish bins are, where the petrol stations are. And that will just mean that I am even more prepared for this trip, and it's less stress. One more thing I don't have to think about. We're going to wing it at this stage once we leave Exmouth at the end of the 2 months and head north. Now, things that might change between now and then. We will have talked to a lot more people. We will have learnt a lot more about what WA travel is like nowadays. And so that could change. But at this stage, the plan is that we will just wing it. We'll head further north, and then we're not planning on doing the Gib in this lap. So we will turn around, and when the weather starts to get a little bit yucky, and start heading back down the coast to do the south of WA through the summer period. So we're going to miss out on Quobba and Quobba and Red Bluff on the way up. We've done Quobba before, so that's not so bad, but our intention is that we will stay there on the way back down the coast after we've done Broome. So there you go. There's the plan. I really, really hope that it helps. Once you get on and start having a play with the website, it will be so much easier. But just be clear in your head. Have a bit of a plan. Know where you want to stay. Know how long you want to stay for. Pick the most important one and start with that first. Get that nailed and then build around it. And you'll be right. Okay, see ya.